congratulations. I'm Cliff Rice, and I want to thank you for attending one of our dinner seminars. Estate planning is one of the smartest things you can do. And if you're watching this video, it means that you're preparing to consider taking care of this very important matter for the sake of not only yourself, but the people that you love the most. Estate planning someday is certainly going to affect everything in the world that you've worked for your entire life, as well as everyone in the world that you love. So you should have before you right now our estate information sheet. And the purpose of this video is to help you fill out that information sheet and complete it in a manner that will allow us to do a better job for you when we meet together in person, and to save some time, and to make our conference more valuable and more productive for your sake as well as ours and that of your family. So on page 1 of the information sheet, in the upper right-hand corner, you might want to go ahead and put the date, or at least the month and the year. When you come in, we're going to change that date to the date of our initial meeting. And then on the first line, fill in your full legal name. That might mean the name on your passport or your birth certificate, and your date of birth, of course, and your current age. Then on the second line, your signature name, which might not be the same as your legal name. We've had clients whose name is Charles Riley Johnson, for example, and everyone calls him Riley, and he signs Riley Johnson, everything. So on your signature name, you would print it the way you sign legal documents. And that way, the name of your living trust can bear the name that you prefer to sign, which might be slightly different than your legal name. Your Social Security number, although that blank is there, we don't really need your Social Security number until someone passes away. So if you're not comfortable filling in your Social Security number, that's optional, okay? On the next line, it says occupation. If you're currently employed, go ahead and put that in. But some of our clients are retired, in which case I'll ask you to put in your former occupation and then the word retired, so that we'll know that you're a retired fireman or a retired teacher or whatever else you may be. Marital status, just indicate right now whether you're single or married or divorced. And then if you are a married person, we're going to ask that you fill out your spouse's full legal name and date of birth and age, and then their signature name, the way they prefer to sign documents. Social Security number, once again, is optional. Spouse's occupation, and then fill in the date of your marriage, if you're a married person, and the number of years that you've been married. And then in about the middle of the page, your home address, and the city, state, and zip code, and the county of your residence, your home telephone number, as well as your cell phone. And married couples, if you could, if one of you is working, let's put that work phone number in there and possibly a second cell phone. Now, we're not likely to be calling you on those cell phones, but someday, if you're hospitalized or there's some kind of emergency, we sometimes get calls from hospitals or others wanting to be in contact with the family because someone has become ill. And this contact information can be very helpful in allowing us to find your spouse or that loved one, to get word to them of your situation. And then email. If you have an email address, then if you could put that in there, that would be helpful as well. We send a great many communications to our clients nowadays by email, and it might help you to stay in the loop of some of the things that are happening here at our office. But a lot of our clients prefer that, even though they have an email, we would correspond with them by conventional mail, and that's fine. Now, down toward the bottom, list the full names of all of your children. And I really do mean all of them. If you intend to disinherit a child, or perhaps you're estranged from a child, or maybe you had a child by prior relationship, but they're not really your child currently, paternity, any question about it, put the name of all of those children down there, even if you don't want them to inherit. And then and that also includes deceased children. If you have a son or daughter who's passed away, list their name, and that's important for estate planning purposes. Now go ahead and indicate whether they're male or female, their date of birth, the marital status of each one of your children, whether they're married, single, or divorced, and then over on the right, the number of their children. That would be your grandchildren. And then if you have children by prior marriage, perhaps you have children, your spouse has children also by prior marriage or separate relationship, it would be helpful if you could indicate whether those are the children of the husband or the wife, so that when we do the estate plan, we'll know that to be the case. Nowadays, there are some families that are kind of like the Brady Bunch, his and hers and ours, you know. So go ahead and indicate that, if you will. And then the last thing on page 1 is indicate whether or not there are any persons who are not U.S. citizens. Because if we have a non-citizen client, it's going to affect the way we design the tax planning for your family. So now let's turn to page 2. And on page 2, the first question is whether you may have any children or grandchildren who have special needs or require special attention. There are special trusts that we can put inside your living trust in order to build in some protection for a disabled adult child or grandchild. And then indicate whether you or your spouse signed a prenuptial or a postnuptial marriage contract before you married or after you were married. Do you or your spouse together share a prenuptial agreement? If you do, then it would be helpful if you could bring in a copy of that agreement. Then the next one talks about whether there are any persons other than minor children who are dependent upon you. An example might be if you had an adult dependent child, or you had a child who'd moved back home again and is unemployed, or perhaps you are caring for an elderly parent in your home, or even outside of your home. The estate plan can take into account the needs of those people and make sure that they're cared for in the event of your passing, if you wish. Next, do you or your spouse or any other family members receive Social Security benefits or other entitlements? And are either of you a disabled veteran? Again, that affects the estate plan design. And then tell us whether you perhaps presently have a living trust. Some of our clients come to us already having an estate plan in place, possibly even a living trust. We can review those documents, show you what we really think has been done very, very well, and if it's possible, there may be some things we can do to improve those documents, to take a good document and make it even better. Then indicate to us whether or not you've ever filed a federal gift tax return. You're allowed to make, under the current law, up to $13,000 per year gift without the need to file a gift tax return. But if in the past you may have made a gift in one calendar year of an amount in excess of that to any one individual, let us know about that. That may also have some impact upon the plan design that we recommend. Now we're down to the list of assets. We start off with real estate. Well, of course, you would list the home that you own, or the property that you're living in, and any other homes that you may own. Now, most of our clients have only one home, but on occasion, they'll have a timeshare, which is also an interest in real estate, or they may have some rental properties, or another home which is being occupied by one of their children. So give us the address of that property and an indication of its value. Now, I know that we aren't going to know exactly the value of that real estate, but just in general terms, what would you ask for that property if you were going to put it on the market for sale? And just your best guesstimate of its value would be sufficient. Automobiles, indicate the year and make of any automobiles that you own and their approximate value. And again, this is not critical to be precise, but just your best guess. Savings and checking accounts. List whatever banks or credit unions you may currently have accounts with and the approximate value of those various accounts. It would be helpful if it's a married couple to indicate whether that's in your name, your spouse's name, or in joint tenancy if you know that. And finally, at the bottom of page 2, any certificates of deposit that you may own. You know, the way things are going these days, CDs are very often referred to as certificates of disappointment. There's never been a time in our history when CDs before have paid less than 1%. So many of our clients who used to have CDs no longer have CDs, but show us what it is that you may have there. And then on the next page, qualified plans. IRAs, 401ks, 403bs, Factory workers very often will have IRAs, or they'll roll over a company plan into an individual retirement account. 401k, also 403b is typically a school teacher or a registered nurse. So list the IRA as well as who is the beneficiary and its current value. Include there, if you will, any pension buyout or lump sum that is going to be coming to you from your employer in the near future. Sometimes you may have no 401k, no IRA at all, but you know that you're retiring in the very near future and the company will be offering a lump sum buyout. That's very important to indicate that lump sum, because it will dramatically affect your taxes and might allow us to save a great deal of taxes for you and your family. Perhaps you're a public employee and you have PERF, Public Employees Retirement Fund. Just go ahead and list that right there. Next category has to do with mutual funds or money market accounts. Fairly self-explanatory. Just tell us the mutual fund and its approximate value. Some of our clients have stocks and or bonds. List them there along with those values. And then we come to personal property. Well, there, personal property is really everything that you have in and around your home that's not nailed down. And that means washer, dryer, stove, refrigerator, TV, VCR, tools, computers, jewelry, collectibles, antiques, stuff in the garage. It really adds up, and it's usually about a third of the value of the house. So if you need a rule of thumb, if you have a $210,000 house, well, according to the insurance industry, the average value of the contents of that home would typically be around $70,000. A third of the value of the house is a good rule of thumb. And again, you'll not ever know the exact value of those contents, but for this purpose, put down what it is listed for insurance purposes, or a third of the value of the house. Now, insurance. Life insurance can be an important part of any estate plan. And if you have insurance, let us know about the name of the company, if you know it, the death benefit. We're really not so much concerned about the cash surrender value when we do estate planning. We're really talking about taxes and probate and other issues that will affect your family someday when you die. So be sure to indicate the death benefit of any life policies that you may own, including those that you may have through your employer. Now, they may change in the future, but what we really want for this purpose is a snapshot of the value of the assets that you own right as of this date, okay? So that's your life insurance, and of course the life insurance, if any, that your spouse may own. Now turning to page 4. Page 4, a general category referred to as other assets. Now this may include things like a motorhome or a boat, or someone owes you some money, or maybe you have something in storage somewhere. Possibly you have a family business. If it's a family business, you would list the name of the business. If it's a corporation, the name of the corporation, of course. And indicate the value, and usually the best way to do that is, if you were going to sell this business, what would you ask for this business of yours to sell it? The IRS usually has rules of thumb for various businesses that it might be 2 to 3 times earnings. So if your business was generating $60,000 a year, the IRS would probably take the position that that's about a $180,000 business in a given case. You certainly wouldn't sell it for 1 year's salary, because you could have made that much in a single year. The business would pay for itself in the first year. So what would you ask for that if you were going to sell it? And then finally, are either you or your spouse anticipating any inheritance within the next 10 years or so? That's very important, because we need to include that in your estate plan. To overlook something that almost certainly was going to be coming your way in the near term would be a mistake. There may end up being tax problems for your children, which could have been fixed, but we overlooked that asset, didn't take it into consideration, and we could have saved a great deal of taxes, but we didn't plan for it because we didn't realize that it even was there. Now, when your parents pass away, if you have living parents, and you're going to receive a legacy from them, put that in there, because we can plan for that and save a lot of taxes for your children. Now, if you're a person of faith and you have any specific religious affiliation or preference, you should indicate it here. Some of the documents that we do can be specific to the faith of a particular client, whether they be Catholic or Jewish or Protestant or other. We have Christian preamble, for example, for the various healthcare documents that we do. And it may be that some of you would have an interest in making a charitable donation or contribution upon death to the church of your choice, the synagogue, whatever. And then indicate your degree of activity. This we'll discuss with you in some detail when you come in as well. Some of our clients choose to do what we call an ethical will, leaving a statement of your own religious or moral principles. It's kind of like the last I love you to your kids, to let them know what your hopes for them are in their lives, and pass along some wisdom that you may not have otherwise imparted to them. You'd be surprised how these documents command the intention of children and grandchildren someday when you pass away. So it's an opportunity to have a last word to the loved ones that you leave behind. All right, now we come to a section about liabilities. If you have a mortgage on your home, this is a place to indicate what the payoff on that mortgage would be. Maybe you have some notes or loans on your life insurance, maybe credit cards. Just list them there. Key advisors. If you have a CPA that you trust and respect and have used over the years, it may be that we can be in contact with them to collaborate with them and interprofessionally design your estate plan even better. Maybe you have a financial advisor whom you trust or an insurance professional. If you list just their name there and the city where they practice, we may choose to be in contact with them, to collaborate with them in the design of your plan. We would not, of course, do that without your permission, but very often we find that it's helpful to do that and best